So today our topic is enhancing social connections. We really hope to highlight the healing power that having meaningful connections at work, at home can bring to your lives. And as human beings, we are hardwired emotionally, cognitively for belonging and connections. That's what we're going to talk about today. We also want to recognize that stress at work can come from many different factors and drivers, from how we individually act each day, our interactions with our work unit or our supervisor, and also things that are out of our control, like national factors, like this pandemic we've all been going through. There are a lot of drivers that if you take a deeper look in, you can kind of see what is that main driver of stress and what's that main driver of well-being. So we're not going to talk about all of them today. We want to acknowledge that we know stress comes from a lot of different places, and this won't be a band-aid for all the stress you feel. But today we really hope to highlight the power, again, that social support and community at work can bring. We also want to recognize that psychological safety is such an important part, and you can't almost reach well-being at work unless you feel psychologically safe to speak up, safe to share your ideas. And we hope you feel that today and speak up as much as possible. Interrupt us with questions. This time is all about you. So we want to make it interactive and hear from you as well. So today our objectives, kind of as I've been hitting, describe the value of social connection. We also want to brainstorm creative ways to build opportunities for high quality social connections. So we know some of us might have been in this virtual space pre-pandemic, maybe you've been fully virtual in these 2 years, but what are those creative ways that we can bring fun and connection to our work units? And we want to hear from you. We have a few ideas, but we know that you all have been doing this, so we want to tap into your knowledge. And then we want to hopefully help you outline one action step that you can take to foster colleague connection.
So we're going to get into touching on our first objective, which is helping you to understand the value of social connection. And in this section, we're going to explore what the research reveals about the impacts, how we've gotten into a state of disconnection and even loneliness, and the different types of social connections that we need.
So Vivek Murthy is one of my academic public health crushes. He's done so much for social connection. He's actually the 23rd Surgeon General. And when he became Surgeon General, he thought he was going to tackle things like vaccine preventable illnesses and reducing tobacco in teenagers. But he actually, before he went to make his speech to Congress about his main areas he was going to focus on, he wanted to pause and go on a listening tour and see, what do the people need? What do they want us to work on? So he set out and listened to all the stories and the tough stories that come with health. But he described as the underlying dark thread in all these stories was actually loneliness. And this is something that other nations are tackling too. In the UK, they actually have a minister of loneliness, which, yes, sounds like a Hogwarts job, but that person's job is tasked with making programs and events in the community that bring people together and build those social ties. This just highlights how much of an epidemic loneliness is and how we need to rethink our systems and structures to ensure we have those social connections.
And a meta-analysis of the research on loneliness and social connection by Julianne Holt-Lunstad has found that people with strong social relationships are 50% less likely to die prematurely than those with weak social relationships. And also, a lack of social connection has an equal risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So that is how important social connection is to our overall health and well-being. So we might think, like, how did we get into this place of loneliness when we are social creatures and hardwired for connection? So thinking about our culture, we really value independence. So doing things on our own. People have a hard time seeking help, asking for help in our culture. Also mobility. People are moving across the country, across the globe for school, for jobs. We're not living with our intact families anymore. And even technology. Think about how we communicate at work. It's more email, instant messaging. It's those technological communications. And I think about my personal life, like I can order groceries online, have somebody put them in the back of my van, and I don't even have to see or talk to anybody. And our prioritization of values. We asked you when you entered the workshop today what you value most. And I saw a theme of family, friends, people, everything, connection. Those are the things that we value most often as people. But sometimes we're not very good at making that top value a priority. And I can even see this in my own life where I might prioritize my work over spending time with my kids. So we have to think about what is most important to us, and are we investing our time in that area? And then, of course, those unforeseen circumstances like COVID-19, where we've been physically told to stay away from people, that is also impacting this culture. So now, thinking about social connection and some of those positive health impacts that we might see, I invite you to find your annotation tools, type in those benefits that you notice about social connection: reducing anxiety, improving mood, inspiring ideas, absolutely. Feeling understood, being heard, laughter with friends, joy, yes. Oh, lots of joy. Happiness. Feelings of gratitude.
Sharing issues, good or bad.
Shared experience.
Troubled lightened, I think is the quote. Laughter lifts mood, balance. And thank you, Lindsey, for playing Tetris here.
I have to say, Tetris was one of my favorite games as a kid.
Positive feedback, that's a great one. Feeling supported and not alone. I think that's so huge, just to know there's somebody out there that feels like you. You're not isolated. So these are wonderful answers. Extra hugs. Lower blood pressure, yeah. Physical effects too.
Yeah, and in the workplace, connection can spark new ideas. So thinking about our core values, innovation, respect, all of those things.
Mark the value that you feel is enhanced when we have improved strong social ties with each other. Yeah, respect, teamwork, compassion, as Lindsey just shared, innovation. Healing, integrity, excellence. I think about psychological safety, or that culture of safety. When we feel comfortable with each other, the integrity improves, the mistakes reduce, Stewardship. All right, I think we got them all. So again, just calling attention to that, all these values, they really honor connection and relationships to each other. And that's why it's important. And that's why you should feel empowered to take time to get to know each other. We also want to show this model, but to back up just a little bit, let's kind of talk about loneliness. So it's really the subjective feeling, and it can be described as the discrepancy between the social connections you want and the social connections you have. Loneliness does not discriminate, as introverts and extroverts experience it the same. Men and women also experience it on equal levels. And it's really reflected in how we feel emotionally, because you can feel lonely in a sea full of people, and you cannot feel lonely when you're alone. But some really cool research shows us that there are actually 3 areas of connection. This first one is emotional or intimate connections. That falls into the category of that really close confidant or intimate partner, someone with whom you share a deep mutual bond of affection and trust. And these are the relationships, the best kind of relationships, where you can be yourself and you feel supported and accepted. This could be family, lifelong friends, partners, or spouses. There's also relational or social, and these are those quality friendships that offer that social companionship and support. And then finally, you may feel that hunger for a community with people that share your values and share your ideas. It's kind of that collective group that you want to feel like you're a part of. So these three dimensions together reflect the full range of high quality connections that humans need in order to thrive. The lack of relationships in any of these dimensions can make us feel lonely, which help explain why we might have that supportive partner, but be missing those quality friendships or communities. However, at the center of it all is our connection to ourselves, knowing that we have value, accepting ourselves, loving ourselves, and really being grounded at peace with who we are. But opportunities for solitude, they often escape us, whether it's because we're looking at our cell phone, whether it's because we have the long to-do list and we're not putting our self-care on that list. But we are actually going to give you some time for solitude now.
Think about those three areas and maybe which area you might be interested in cultivating more connection.
So when you've joined us, if you maybe want to annotate on which of the four areas you maybe want to cultivate stronger connections in, and that way we know when everyone is back. Seeing a lot for relational. If you move a lot like I do to find friends that are close to you, it's not easy as an adult. Collective and community. Maybe you'll find that here at Mayo Clinic. The merge groups are a great place to find that community.
Yeah, and I think these activities always highlight where everybody is in a different place. So even think about your work unit, your colleagues, everybody is probably going to be in kind of a different place of where they want to put their focus or should put their focus. Lovely. Thank you for sharing. So our next section is with our second objective on building high quality connections. So we've talked about high quality connection a little bit, but what really is a high quality connection? A high quality connection is one that energizes you, creates excitement, it sparks creativity, or it leaves you feeling understood, heard, or even seen. So think about how long it might take you to create a high quality connection. It actually takes 40 seconds of a positive and caring interaction to make a high quality connection and have an impact in your day and in someone else's day. So think about where in your day can you take 40 seconds to, within what you're already doing, to create a connection with somebody. And the research also shows that quality connections often take place in one-on-one or in small groups of about 3 to 5 people. So thinking about large teams, being able to break out into smaller groups of 5 or less is really where you're going to be able to help create some of those more high quality connections in a team. So thinking about connection, it's all about creating belonging and developing trust and being able to be authentically yourself. And that's where we create these high quality connections. And belonging is all about being intentionally inclusive, because if we aren't intentional about including others, we can be unintentionally exclusive and leave people feeling left out. So have you ever had coworkers, maybe when we were in the office or on site, where they went out to lunch and you're like, hey, I would love to go out to lunch with you guys, but you weren't invited. So those are the ways that people can unintentionally feel left out. So trying to bring that intentionality in including everybody, but making it optional. So Dr. Brene Brown, a research professor at the University of Houston, has spent the last 20 years studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. She describes belonging as this innate human desire to be a part of something larger than us. And because this desire is so primal, we often try to get it by fitting in and seeking approval from others. And we all know putting on that mask or being that person that isn't necessarily us can be very draining. It can cause anxiety and eventually even hurt our work performance. So fitting in and approval from others are often barriers to this authentic belonging, because true belonging only happens when we can be our imperfect selves to the world and be accepted. So thinking about creating a sense of belonging, cultivating trust, and being ourselves, what actions can each of us take to create belonging within our team? Another wonderful tool from Brene Brown are these 7 elements of trust. And she calls it the braving tool because it really takes courage to be vulnerable and give a little piece of yourself or information about yourself to other people. So B stands for boundaries. When you set boundaries and hold true to them and you're clear about them, then others can respect that and they know where they stand. And there's really no trust without having good boundaries. R is for reliability. So saying and doing what you say you're going to do, that shows that you not only can speak it, but that you follow through. And that helps to continually build trust over time. A stands for accountability. So if you make a mistake and you own up to it, apologize and make amends, that allows people to trust you versus like trying to place the blame on something else. But really owning that and being accountable can help develop trust with colleagues and with other people in your life. V stands for vault. So kind of like whatever is told to you that might be personal, holding that in confidence, locking it away, not being a gossip, because gossip is one of those workplace things that can be really damaging to teamwork and respect and all of those things that we want to uphold within our teams and make it a great place to work. I is for integrity. So doing what is right over what is fast and easy. So speaking up, if you see something, say something. If you think that there might be an error or mistake, just being able to call it out and uphold that integrity. N is for non-judgment, being able to express something or ask for help and not being judged and being accepted for what you're going through and who you are. And then the last one is generosity. So G is generosity. So thinking about how generous are we with our words, our intentions, our behaviors? Are we sharing appreciation? Are we being generous with appreciation and recognition? And also, are we being generous in our assumptions of what other people are intending? So I know we've probably all got that email where we've gotten really fired up and we're like, what? Why is this person so upset with me? Or I'm so upset with this. We put all of that tone and interpretation into that message. Can we be generous with how we can interpret others' words?
All right, we're going to shift into action planning. So we kind of broke this down into 2 avenues. So on the next slide, you'll see maybe it's an individual action plan you want to set for yourself. So we have a few ideas here, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms again and allow you to brainstorm with a partner. So maybe Lindsey can cue those up as we run through some individual ideas, and then we also have work unit ideas. So the individual ideas, I think coffee chats are great. Maybe it's a walking meeting or walking with a colleague if you're on campus, scheduling it if you live close enough. Working meetings are also great. If you have two projects, maybe they're different, but just getting on a Zoom call and working through that, just like mimicking like we were when we were on campus together in cubicles. I think we already talked about the merge groups and how awesome they are. And maybe it's just having one-on-ones with your supervisor if you're feeling disconnected and want more feedback, with a colleague you haven't got to know, and with somebody who's new. Think about the first time you joined a team and how intimidated you were. How can you break that down for someone else? Seek out shared workplaces in your community. I see them popping up all over my town. So I find them on social media. So maybe that's an option for you. We have coaching connection groups and well-being. We also just encourage just quick check-ins with each other, and then ask for help when you need it as well. That's another great way to make connections. Call instead of email, and even finding that accountability partner that's going to be like, hey, haven't heard from you. Do you want a coffee chat? Do you want to walk? Is another great strategy. On the next slide, we'll see some team ideas. So this one might be a little bit more challenging. You may need to go to your supervisor and ask permission, but how can you kind of integrate social time into your already existing workflows? So if you're on campus, maybe it's a huddle, taking 5 minutes to do a quick icebreaker. If it's a virtual meeting, maybe you can have optional social time before or after the meeting. With virtual space, how can you bring in people's passions or people's ideas? So even doing a home office tour where they show you some of their favorite pictures or degrees, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a baby picture challenge where everyone submits a picture of themselves as a baby and you have to go through and guess who is who. Breakout rooms, as we kind of shared, hosting virtual celebrations. Maybe they are themed to add a little bit of fun. Maybe you're doing some scavenger hunts in your virtual office. Virtual games, as you all shared, short videos and having a discussion about it. And then also being clear on participation expectations, having the leader of these events say, we hope people will engage, we want you to turn off distractions, we want you present, and we expect that we'll all participate in this.
We want to give you a little summary of everything that we've covered today. Thinking about connection, really prioritize that solitude and connection to yourself. Think about nurturing connections in those 3 different dimensions, and really understand what dimension do you most need to focus on to help round out your social connections. Create those environments that foster trust, belonging, and authenticity. Put time into those things that you value most, and then intentionally create those high quality connections, whether it's not multitasking or being intentional and putting those meetings on the calendar, or even having the conversation with your team or your supervisor about like, what's the expectation? Can we do this? And how do we want to do it?